Okay, welcome. Thank you for joining us for this session. This is Track 3, Climate Change Impacts, Exposing the Myths Regarding Global Warming and Human Health. My name is Matt Warner with the American Legislative Exchange Council. I'll be moderating today. American Legislative Exchange Council, or ALEC, is a state legislators organization, and one of our initiatives is to bridge science and policy for state legislators and increase their access to science and scientific understanding. And one of the things that we've been observing is that the number of bills that are being introduced at the state level to mitigate climate change has more than quadrupled in the last 2 years. So the need for scientific understanding at the state level more than ever is needed, as these policies have great impact. And we are fortunate today to have a esteemed panel to address these issues and expose some of these myths. These myths, of course, are part of what contributes to the momentum that is pushing these policies. And the irony is they're effective on the front end, and on the back end in the policy debate, when you're talking about cost-benefit analysis, these things are omitted, and they focus only on emission reductions and not on whether any of these policies will have any effect. So getting at these myths at the front end is critical to slow this momentum, and we're looking forward to our presentations. We have 3 presenters. They'll have 20 minutes each, and then we'll have a 30-minute Q&A with the audience. And Dr. Howard Mackabee wanted me to point out on the front end that the title is Health Hazards of Global Warming is his title. But we'll begin going right to left, first with Dr. John Dale Dunn. Dr. Dunn is a civilian faculty member in emergency medicine at Carl R. Darnall Army Medical Center in Fort Hood, Texas, the largest Army post and busiest emergency department in the U.S. Army. He served as the Public Health Authority for Brown County, Texas for more than 10 years and is now the Brown County Sheriff's Medical Officer. Dr. Dunn is a policy advisor for the Heartland Institute and the American Council on Science and Health and an inactive member of the Texas Bar. Dr. Dunn.
Thank you. I'm honored to be on the podium with Joel Schwartz and Howard Mackabee, who both appeared last year and are both distinguished scientists and commentators. Some of the things that I cover may be covered in another lecture by Dr. Paul Ryder, but I'm going to try and stay away from his special area of vector control and mosquito-borne diseases. I'm going to talk just generally about the effect of temperature on the human body and whether alarmists are correct in their suggestion that it's a significant problem. We, as humans, are endotherms. We maintain our temperature at 99.6 rectally. Dogs do it at 102, horses 100.5. All mammals are endotherms, and so we have regulatory mechanisms that keep us at a particular temperature, and when we are exposed to ambient heat or cold, we can, in extreme circumstances, depending upon our health, react to those stresses, and illness, injury, or even death might occur. Heat illness rates increase around the point where ambient temperature approaches body temperature, depending upon the humidity and individual medical conditions, as well as ventilatory status and the what you might call the ability of the body to have an opportunity to sweat, to convect heat, and to some extent, some of the minor effects of breathing and conduction and radiation. Radiation being the electromagnetic energy that you see on infrared cameras. Heat stroke is the most severe form of heat illness, which occurs around 105 degrees Fahrenheit internal temperature and causes significant body vital function damage directly related to the temperature of the body at the time. The effects of cold are similar. Organ damage, chemical abnormalities. The enzymes in our bodies are designed to work around our body temperature. So in effect, if you're a chemist, you understand the importance of enzymes working in their range of adequate environment. I agree with Bjorn Anderson of the Niels Bohr Institute that average temperature of the globe is kind of hard to measure. It's not a homogeneous place that we live in, and we're taking temperatures in various places, but let's just assume that the average temperature is in the 50s Fahrenheit. That means that average temperature across the globe is slightly less than we could tolerate unless we have clothes on. With that in mind, let's just talk about panic talk. Public health authorities have asserted that there are 150,000 deaths per year due to global warming. Imagine that. If the globe actually is increased in average temperature by a degree, 2 degrees, maybe 3 degrees, can we really say that 150,000 people died because of that slight increase? When I know for a fact that it was much cooler earlier this morning than it is right now, and the amount of temperature that we have to tolerate as human beings from day to day, from month to month, from year to year, is so significant that the idea that the average temperature of the globe is going to produce 150,000 deaths that would not have occurred otherwise is silly. And we'll talk about that a little bit. But in fact, a World Health Organization scientist named Campbell Lindrum asserted in 2003 that in the year 2000, warming death effects were 150,000 deaths, and he predicted that it would be doubled by the year 2030. The daily change in temperature in any location on the planet is more than the warming projections of the IPCC. So where do these things come from? First of all, let's talk about whether warm or cool is better. Well, warm is better. As you get older, you put socks on when you go to bed. I used to sleep in the nude. I don't sleep in the nude no more. And my wife is so happy that I'm finally covering up. But the point is, I've got jammies and socks on if it's anywhere cold, because as I get older, I am more sensitive to cold. My horses, I have a horse that's 26 and a horse that's 25. When the weather gets cold, they start to gimp because their joints are affected by the cold in a negative way. Well, the rest of your organs, all of your chemical systems are affected by cold. They can be affected by heat, but it's important to remember that cold is a significant factor in the health of the human population. As age increases, blood vessel and general debilitation sets in. People do better when it's warm. They are more functional and they're more comfortable. The elderly do better and they have fewer infections, better organ and circulatory function, better mobility and spirits in warmer conditions. In fact, everybody knows that, except the World Health Organization. Being born in the winter is hard on kids. And in fact, there have been some mortality studies done that show that individuals who are born during the milder months of the year live longer. Now, that is both southern hemisphere and northern hemisphere specific. And what it means is that if you, as a child, are born in the wintertime, you are exposed to infectious processes that will affect you and can, in fact, have an impact on your longevity. Interesting idea, huh? But any pediatrician or parent will tell you that kids do fine during the summer and they get sick during the winter. I mean, take a look at emergency department visits. It's not a real difficult thing to understand. Any parent or doctor will say that wintertime for kids is tough. Warm is good for people. It's good for the roses, the trees, the horses, the crocodiles, the snakes, even the polar bears. Hot can kill ectotherms, so lizards and snakes can die if they don't get under cover when the sun is shining down hard. So heat and cold can kill and injure. There's no question about that. People need to understand that the human race is a very adaptable thing. The studies, the United States Department of Defense shows that increases in illnesses occur during the winter months. Keating in the British Medical Journal showed that in the elderly from age 65 to 74, Cold snaps and cold waves cause 10-to-1 deaths as compared to heat waves in the people that he studied. 10-to-1. Now, it's less than that. Indrek Goklanic has done some studies on extremes of weather and weather events and how many deaths occur as a result of them, and I will talk about that in a minute. But in fact, in the elderly, cold is much tougher, and it causes deaths not only at the time of the wave, the cold wave, but it also causes a tail, which kills people out a few weeks from the time of the decrease in the temperature. Goklani did a nice study that is published, and it's part of this handout that I have. The reference is from the, let's see if I can find it here. I'll get to it in a minute, but I've got the reference in the handout. It's policynetwork.net, and he studied deaths from extreme events globally, and found, first of all, that drought and flood is the most cause of weather events that kill people. Heat and cold have a relatively insignificant impact on populations. He measured it in terms of a few thousand in the world as compared to millions of deaths from various other things. So, for example, what he says is the reason why the World Health Organization has exaggerated the numbers, which he says are around 0.3% of all the deaths on the globe for heat and cold. The WHO, in its claim of 150,000 deaths, includes 77,000 of the 250,000 deaths from malnutrition. Okay? 47,000 of the 2 million deaths from diarrhea, 27,000 of the 1 million deaths from malaria, and 2,000 deaths from floods. So they counted all of those as deaths due to global climate change or warming. I think that's subject to debate. So the hobgoblin is heat illness. Dozens of elderly people died in Chicago during 1995 heat wave, and thousands of people in Europe, particularly France, died in 2003. High humidity and high ambient temperatures put the elderly at risk if they can't be moved, if they don't live in air conditioning, or if they don't have good ventilation. It's as simple as that. So if the French would just take care of their elderly, they wouldn't have had thousands of people die. Those people died because they were abandoned. And the reason they were abandoned is that in France, in August, everybody goes on vacation. So the whole demography of the country is disrupted. The various stages of heat illness are fatigue, cramps, progressing to exhaustion, and then when the core temperature rises to more than 105, heat confusion and stroke, which has a 50% mortality. So we're talking serious business here, but it can be avoided. Dry desert produces extremes of heat. Tropics do not. Did you ever stop to think about why it is that Iraq has daytime temperatures 130 degrees in the same latitude where other countries have no significant elevations of temperature like that? It has to do with circulation and climatology factors. It also has to do with humidity, rainfall, cloud cover, the things that climatologists would like to remind me that I don't know anything about. So acclimatization is a key to heat stress, and clearly good ventilation, good hydration, and proper management of housing are the key to avoiding heat deaths. The Copenhagen Consensus Group placed basic public health measures and economic development far above global warming as a crisis for the global population. I think they're right. When it comes down to it, it's a damn shame that global warming can be such an important issue for the comfortable, snotty West when there are people in Africa who don't have access to clean water. And when it comes down to it, our allocation of resources has to be done with some kind of intelligence. And at this point, that means we probably have to get politics out of the way, and we have to do something about scientists like the people at the WHO who would make exaggerated claims about deaths from heat and who would say essentially that they're dealing with some kind of a crisis that will kill, in this case, they're saying 150,000 to 300,000. Inder Goklanic, his study, I think did a very good job of analyzing extreme events and talking about the effect of extremes of heat and cold. And just to give you a comparison, we're talking about global deaths on the order of 70 million, 80 million people a year. Heat and cold kill less than 25,000 people. Even according to the Goklani analysis, what that means essentially is that it's a less than 1% effect on the death rate of the population of the globe. At the same time, 1 million people die from malaria. And I'd have to say the environmentalists are going to be held accountable for that one. And 33 million people die from medical and aging diseases that have nothing to do with hot, cold, or indifferent. There are less numbers who die from injuries and war and the kind of things that you might call or the result of violence. But when it comes down to it, if you think about proportion, it is silly for us to worry about hot and cold as an effect on the human race that is something that's more important than other basic requirements of humans, which is nutrition, clean water, a decent way to get rid of sewage, and housing and clothing. Extreme heat waves occur for various reasons. They are not climate phenomena. They are weather phenomena. And not trying to pretend like I'm a climatologist, I would like to emphasize to you that when somebody talks about extreme temperature events, how are we doing on time here, bud? Good. I'll end up quick because this is like 2,000 words. It would have taken me 20 minutes to just read this thing, and I was trying to just summarize some of the things that are in it. And if you want, I will give you the handouts, and you can take them home and review some of the specifics. But when it comes down to it, in the final analysis, as a physician who sees emergency patients, I would have to say that heat is potentially a harmful thing in the stressful circumstance, particularly of young men who are working hard in the heat and don't have an opportunity to take care of their heat by convection, by hydration, by rest, by going into a cooler environment. The people who die, however, in these heat waves are usually relatively immobile and disabled elderly, with few exceptions. In the last 2 years, the number of heat illnesses we've seen on a base that trains thousands of soldiers in the hot Texas sun, less than 50. So it is not a problem that you need to worry about. I think we have more important things to deal with, and that is the fact that we're dealing with a political environment where essentially people have hijacked science to make the case for carbon control. The discussion last night by Dr. Lindson reminds me of what I deal with as a physician who's interested in epidemiology and public health. The public health community has been hijacked. You cannot trust what they say because they always check their political agenda list before they make statements, assertions, or even do studies sometimes. So I'll give you an example. The proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in July of this past year, 2008, published an article by a urologist in Dallas who combined with an economist and a climatologist in Dallas decided that since there was a pattern of increased kidney stones in the southeastern United States, they would do a study on what global warming will do to the cost and effect of kidney stone disease in the United States. It doesn't take anything to get published by the National Academy of Science if you include global warming in the title, okay? So they studied stone disease in the southeast. And somebody at Heartland asked me to analyze it and comment on it. And it's actually, you know, the problem is these people are so bad that even a dumb emergency physician can rip them a new one when he sees what they're trying to accomplish. And so you open up a typical internal medicine textbook, and here's what it says on the epidemiology of kidney stones. 85% of them are inherited. Your tendency to stones has got nothing to do with where you live. But if you look at the southeastern United States, there are a lot of people who live there who have ethnic and generational tendencies towards stones. So what's that got to do with the weather? But the Southeast is a hot place. Okay. So if I'm writing the paper, my question would be, well, what about the Southwest? It's hotter in the Southwest than in the Southeast, right? Climatologists will tell you why. It has to do with that desert thing that we were talking about. So they said, okay, the increase in temperature across the United States is going to produce billions of dollars in increased costs because of kidney stones. On the tenuous theory that people don't have any air conditioning in the United States, and that in fact we are living a primitive life, and when the weather changes outside, we're suddenly going to be exposed to conditions of dehydration. When I was a kid, we did not carry bottles of water around. It drives me crazy to see people nibbling on their water all the time because they're trying to make sure that they're well hydrated. I think the point is that we're obsessed about a lot of things. We're very comfortable. We're very comfortable, and we have time to worry about things that don't mean anything. And the public health community would be running out of money, funding, and jobs if they started telling you the truth. That's not just about global warming. It's about epidemiology. It's about cheating on the numbers. And we were talking about the statistical importance of doing good studies and having good data. The problem in public health is that we're looking at small effects and a lot of uncertainty, and we're making all kinds of claims that result in billions of dollars of regulatory activity that's imposed on us by people who are ambitious and who love control. Thank you.